When this guy steps into a VR capsule for the first time, his friend just laughs at him, convinced he's going to fail miserably. But our guy was a sword god in his past life, so without hesitation, he immediately selects the highest training difficulty. The AI attacks right away with all the power it's capable of, but Seojin easily blocks every strike. Then he lands a devastating counterattack, instantly taking away half of the robot's health. His friend is left in shock by what he's seeing. Meanwhile, the robot launches another attack, but it's completely useless. Seojin simply smashes its head and follows up with a deadly series of lightning-fast slashes. To finish it off, he cuts off the robot's arm and destroys it for good. The robot's remains collapse to the floor in a pile of scrap metal. His friend can't believe his eyes. How did he defeat an AI that 99% of players can't beat so easily and so quickly? With skills like that, our guy is guaranteed to make a fortune through streaming. So, how did it all start? In this world, champions of virtual reality streaming are decided by a grand-style tournament called the League of Streaming, won once by Shin Haeyeon 6 years ago. Today, our protagonist Seojun is working in the boring research and development sector. He used to be a retired gamer who can't play anymore because of his crushingly low synchronization rate. But thanks to the advancements in technology, people like him with physical impairments can now also play. Except for one small problem, the capsule costs him a whopping 100 million won, which is just a teensy bit out of bro's budget who barely has 500 won to his name right now. The capsule is a device that helps people in various sectors of life, but the most popular one of all is undoubtedly virtual reality gaming. The entire world was quickly taken by the storm of the capsule technology, until our boy ended up experiencing a brutal incident inside the capsule. Back at his dorm, his roommate Kim Tae-woo is watching Shin Haeyeon kickstart the event match for the upcoming tournament. The League of Streaming is no joke. It's disgustingly popular in Korea and worldwide, amassing nearly 15 million people watching. Swords are still considered meta, but that's not alone to win either. Tae-woo himself got eliminated while using a sword last year. Also, he's a veteran streamer who is shocked that his buddy is suddenly interested in streaming. Seojin suddenly recalls his earlier meeting with Ji-hye, who explained that if he won the league tournament, he could keep the capsule to himself, and until then, she's happy to let him rent it without any cost. This gave Seojin the idea to participate in the tournament. Tae-woo thought of it as a ridiculous plan coming from his non-streamer friend. However, our boy has been getting a calling from deep inside his heart to chase his glory days of the sword. Because thanks to Truck Kun, he has already once lived a former life as the unparalleled sword god, one whose blade cuts through dozens without mercy. A memory of the past swallows him outside his control, regarding a secret black market that opened around the full moon. Right there at the bottom of it, sat someone who was going to be used as a tool. That someone happens to be Seojin from his previous life, a boy who was a slave to his fate and nothing more. But then bloodshed ensued as every man in the room was slaughtered in cold blood. Someone had rescued this child, offering his aid, seeking to help nurture the boy and welcoming him into his home. Back then, if his badass master hadn't arrived, his life would be far different. So the prodigy ended up being saved from his despairing fate, which later progressed into a heavy duty of upholding the traditional path for Seojin, maturing him into a figure called the Sword God. Those warm memories of spending his life with his master warm the current Seojun, who still has no idea why he became the Sword God in his past life. Bro's a bit annoyed because he basically got to the highest rank, and for what? Tae-woo continues waffling, saying how our boy is a goddamn freakazoid for even thinking of purchasing a whole-ass capsule just to participate in the League of Streaming tournaments. To our boy, it's a wise investment. But to someone who is a veteran like Tae-woo, he wonders if this dude has any idea about the crazy restrictions of the tournament. That's right, if you're not popular like Kai Cenat or something, participation is a huge hassle, and gaining popularity isn't some walk in the park either. First, it requires excellent verbal ability to entertain the audience, paired alongside amazing game sense to impress the chatters. There's even humor needed to make sure the viewers don't get bored. Finally, the most pain-in-the-ass process that haunts me right now, the level 9000 boss called video editing. Even if one is capable of doing all of these, there's a matter of luck, since streamers get left out all the time in the dirt. In other words, Tae-woo's out here showing hard reality checks that our boy's delusions are in the gutter and he won't be becoming iShow speed overnight. To top it off, bro hasn't even run a capsule before in front of his roommate. Seojin finds it still intriguing and asks if he can merely achieve all his goals if he mogs his way with his skills. At this point, Tae-woo is genuinely starting to believe that this dude is pretty damn insistent, but he does confirm there being a way. For instance, All he has to do is to become better than the legendary Shin Haeon herself, who is basically the faker of this world because this chick is the nastiest gamer on the planet. The hilarious part? Our boy straight up says that he's gonna destroy that girl since he's better than her, and that he's already used a capsule before. Obviously, this whole thing is ridiculous to Taewoo, who can understand that his buddy has royally lost his brain cells. Adopting a different approach, the homeboy urges Seojin to get his ass inside the capsule already so that he can be humbled gamer style. After all, if his skills can truly surpass Haeon, or better yet, if they're even better than just Taewoo's personal records, bro promises to do all the housework until the end of time. And well, as you can guess, our boy is already smirking, probably thinking to himself that he's got himself a personal maid for free. Seojin confirms the deal, and the capsule slams shut, connecting him to the virtual reality world with a 10-second countdown. The system addresses him with his ID, as well as a playtime and creation date. The thing is, the former sword god is badass enough and never really cared about the world of streaming, but something about his master's words from his previous life still rings true to him. The wise teacher once told him to start anything regardless of his clumsiness in life, because hesitating means risking not achieving anything at all. If you ask me, that's better advice than anything Andrew Tate's bald head has said in the past 4 years. Opening his eyes, Seojin embraces a new setting, entering the training ground alongside Taewoo, who is also immediately transported here. Our boy asks for information about the place, and learns that it's a basic game inside the capsule, a place where there's a sparring AI for record-based progress. Seojin is a little annoyed that he can't just face Taewoo directly and run the fade check on his chopped haircut, while his roommate is cocky and doesn't want to make the newbie bleed too soon. Checking system details, our boy learns that there's a level 1 through 10 system for the AI, and level 10 itself mimics the style of the person who has cleared level 9 with the best score imaginable. Long story short, Shin Haeon has held that record for half a decade, so level 9 also runs on her replay. But that's far-fetched, because to get to 10 in the first place, the other levels need to be cleared, which is tough on its own. Before Taewoo can finish his yapping, our boy literally initiates the first duel state and transports this AirPod-shaped bot into the arena. Seojin doesn't even give a damn about listening to Taewoo anymore, but it's implied that he actually skipped levels instead of clearing level 1 directly. In mere moments, the fight starts off with AirPod Pro launching full speed with a sword, only to get blocked by our Korean badass. Taewoo is still smirking, confused why his friend over here has the ability to act so cocky, even while he's deflecting those sword strikes. AirPod Pro aims for a pointed strike, only to miss the attack with an Ultra Instinct weave from our boy, leading into a clean cut right across the bot's torso. This takes out a pretty hefty chunk of its health, stunning the crap out of Taewoo, who calls it a mere fluke. But get this, when Seojin's opponent swings back for round 2, this time bro literally styles on him by delivering a dozen slashes, precisely cut all over its body like it was nothing. By the end of his attack, Seojin slices off the AI's arm, which hits the ground in the most humiliating way imaginable. Back to Apple repairs it goes, leaving Taewoo's jaw ripped from his mouth. The bot is at the mercy of our boy, who towers over him like he's some kind of menace. Seojin doesn't even spare the poor guy some mercy and literally chops his head clean off, ending the fight. The simulation for the duel ends. The bot disappears instantly, while the system congratulates him for winning the level 9 duel with a ranking of 107th. And yes, you heard that right. Even Taewoo is astonished that this dude challenged level 9 right off the bat and humiliated this thing too. In other words, the next fight is the real deal. Materializing into reality comes the reflection of a monstrous AI, taking the shape of Haeon's own battle capabilities. This isn't going to be an easy match. Even Taewoo is starting to wonder if this dude is some secretly overpowered psychopath. Back at the research and development department, the director is asked about her decision for the free rental she just gave. It's a reckless move for someone like Seojin, as bro took the whole piece home for basically free. Jai's assistant taunts that our boy doesn't even look like he can operate the damn thing, but mommy director is calm and believes that talent should not go to waste. Back then, she knew that Seojin missed his chance because of his failure to realize the synchronization rate, even though she was the only person who thought of him as amazing. And the kid has even improved from back then. In other words, though she knows participating is difficult for him normally, yet she is looking forward to the future where he does participate. Because if that happens, Jihye confidently declares that this man will win everything. Talk about being a baddie and a true homegirl at the same time. Bro's winning in life. Let's return to the training grounds for our epic duel. the former sword god is handling the fight relatively chill so far. Tae-woo is genuinely bothered by the mere idea of this man winning the duel. Since he's interested in the outcome, the streamer decides to hit the record button and showcase the rest of the world in case our boy here wins. As for the main duel, Hyun's bot goes for an aerial strike. The fancy move is casually blocked by Seojin's clean defenses, who then returns the blow with double the love, knocking the level 10 AI back quite a bit. From an exchange of a few clashes, even the legendary sword god is impressed with Hyun's ability, a feeling that he is familiar with, because the girl's talent even now confirms that she's better than all the opponents Bro faced in his previous life. The self-glaze continues with Seojin still believing he's far stronger. He gets distracted, and well, the bot ends up landing a lethal strike. Game over, right? Tae-woo is already hating, having never believed in his boy to begin with. But here's the thing. Seojin casually plunges the sword out of his abdomen, tossing it aside. There's basically no damage incursion on his main body. No blood or pain travels through, of course. His health points are reduced all the way down to 1. Bro is literally standing on his last leg right now, but the scariest part is Tae-woo. He's actually freaking out that this man might have let himself intentionally get hit just now. All that just to satisfy his own curiosity. But you see, Hyun's bot manifests another blade to end the duel, blitzing with full speeds ahead to conclude this fight. In retaliation, our boy rockets ahead too. Both fighters meet their epic sword clash. Seojin smiles, indicating that he's still taking the fight pretty chill. As for the AI, this thing's starting to get overpowered and it can sense that, until suddenly, the sword god's blade severs the bot across its chest, followed by a beautiful kick from Seojin, pushing it further back. Hyun's bot returns to the ground, leaving its points all the way down to 4, and continuing the trash talk, our boy wonders if he has instilled fear into the AI to even question attacking him. Bro out here making ChatGPT afraid. Seojin propels for his own offensive initiative, seizing the early draw, nearly cutting Hyun down, but the attack is blocked just in time. Despite the successful block, the force behind our boy's swing is so powerful that the AI's sword begins to chip and shatter. Only Dune fans will get that reference. Tae-woo watches in shock as the sword shatters apart, concluding the strike and practically guaranteeing our boy's victory. Now Seojin towers over the AI, having it at its mercy. The trash talk continues with Bro saying that the AI needs another 8 years just to beat him, and saying so he cleaves its head off, winning the duel. Tae-woo is out here starstruck. The real owner of level 10 has now changed, matching it to our boy's abilities now instead. Seojin, looking badass than ever with that clean fit, wonders if he's qualified now. The following day, Bro's fancy new housemate is already bringing him food and water, overworking the ever-living crap out of Tae-woo at every opportunity. I mean, look at Bro suffering in the background, realizing that he made a bet with the worst dude ever. That's gonna be us too when ChatGPT takes all our jobs. Anyway, Seojin only just installed the game the other day, making him wonder if he should log in and prepare stuff for his first stream. He goes inside and boots up the system. To his surprise, Bro is transported to a white space. Having no idea or sense of belonging to what this location is, he focuses on the system screen, welcoming him to the player lobby where he can get ready before moving on. Our boy suddenly remembers that streamers usually get ready here before continuing on, so he has a rough idea of this place. Except it's pretty damn plain right now and looking like a hospital ward. Still, Seojin goes with travel right off the streaming platform. His only goal in life for the moment is to climb the ranks, building his reputation so that he can qualify for the Leo's tournament. Since he booted up the platform, the stream initiates right away with his chosen game. This one is called The Dawn of the Assassination Squad, which is giving me free roaming vibes right off the start. So the idea is that it's a medieval assassination game. The goal is to eliminate targets using unnoticeable methods. The same game surpassed 2 million viewers just on opening week, and its popularity continues to soar sky high. In other words, this is the perfect environment for our boy to hone his beginner streaming skills. So he does what he does best. Korean Batman latches onto his grappling hook and climbs atop the building. Cladded in this badass outfit, he looks down at the cityscape. Seojin knows the fun has only just begun as he officially kickstarts his first stream. Oh, and by the way, since it's his first time streaming and everything, Tae-woo ended up giving him a long-ass name just to garner attention from the rest of the viewers. Though our boy isn't really confident in Bro's abilities, and does have his way around playing a game before. Anyway, he looks down at the gorgeous view of the city. Just the graphics alone are commendable. It's like having the latest Ryzen but 100 times better. Seojin is really happy to experience this side of life too. By the way, his character is called Dane. Christina, a gorgeous blonde, and his teammate come to inform him that he's on a dangerous mission to come. Our boy's character responds automatically, which basically implies that this is the tutorial setting for the game. Dane's voice is different from Seojun's voice, and the experience so far has been exhilarating. Christina has no words to speak, while her partner is out here quoting Lelouch Vi Britannia's famous quote, "Those who kill must also be ready to die." The girl is fed up with his corny ass and urges him to be careful, but Dane keeps it chill and tells her to head back. Before leaving, she hands him a note, expressing that there's no truth here, so he's better off doubting as much as possible. This confirms to Seojun that the mission has officially begun, as his character is ready to doubt even the chaotic setting. Let's change the view. Korean Batman is out here swinging from building to building like budget Spider-Man all of a sudden. After his super cool landing, Seojun receives a notification from the system of his abrupt tutorial auto-start. From here on, he's on his own, but there's no path ahead except a blocked passageway. Our boy is given a hint to climb up the pipes, which is a pretty odd assignment. The sword god is on his way to become the pipe god, and speaking of piping, Bro's piping skills are pretty smooth, allowing him to leap up without breaking a sweat. At the top of the roof, we have Seojun questioning why his body is automatically moving all by itself, a nod to the amazing immersive environment. He begins to wonder if it's all over, and if he should enjoy the auto mode tutorial. The auto mode is slammed with a proper tutorial quest to assassinate someone called Etere, a high-ranking noble and manager of a fabled society. With the only goal set as Etere's termination, Seojun checks the map setting and finds it impressive how this game is cool as hell. Helping him out, he's given a rope to descend. Our boy is rather impressed with how the game is properly helping out with the basics. But something seems to bother our boy's cat-like curiosity. He's getting the impulsive thought of just letting the rope go and descending faster, since this part is pretty boring. To test his hypothesis, this man literally lets go, bravely crash landing all the way down with a heavy thud. So far, dude's plans didn't work per his expectations, but he does note a couple of chatters laughing about his clumsiness in the game for being a damn newbie. So far, these dudes are straight up making fun of his ass for being lame. It suddenly dawns on him that he's streaming too, begging the question why 4 people even bothered to join. At first he thought no one would join, but thanks to his incredibly long and weird title because of Taewoo, chatters have taken pity on him. The whole idea of watching him be clumsy is entertaining to the chatters, though the IDs and usernames are pretty long and weird to keep up with. Remembering his homeboy's words, Seojun recalls how he was told to practice slowly filling the silence instead of focusing on the numbers. The idea behind streaming isn't the numbers, but the interaction value. That's why the only reason people gravitate towards popular streams is because of their interaction ability. But also, people love small streamers since they get recognized fast in their chat, instead of getting buried down. Playing around with his streaming life, our boy begins to respond to a bunch of messages on his own, expressing his shock, and generally entertaining the chatter, making his presence known. Finally, one guy tells him to start the quest already, which becomes his cue signal to act. Speaking of which, let's cut to the ominous and dramatic setting of Count Etere's mansion. The chatters are intimidated with the frightening atmosphere, while our boy is wondering if it's going to be fine for him to just waltz his way inside politely. The chatters are surprised by his balls of titanium, while Seojun looks back at the note that Christina left him with, precisely giving him coordinates of Etere's bedroom on the 2nd floor, as well as the number of enemies. For weapons, Seojun is handed a sword stick as well as a gauntlet, pretty basic and expected for tutorial items. Not that it matters since he just has to kill one guy no matter the tool. But right as our boy is about to head straight inside, his chatters go batshit crazy on his ass for being an idiot and rushing in blindly. Seojun feels like an idiot, while they emphasize that he read the rest of the note that Christina handed to him. At this point, they've given up all hope on him, genuinely thinking that a proper defeat will teach this newbie a lesson. The ancient sword god has no idea of the sudden shift in everyone's mood, politely asking if he can just walk his way inside. One person asks him to do warrior play, because basically in this game, getting caught allows NPCs to get way stronger, so the goal is to play stealthy. On very few occasions, veteran players intentionally blitz inside, making all the noise they can to openly slaughter the enemies, which is called a warrior play. This intrigues our boy, who wonders if he can do a warrior play to win this one out. The chatters explain that no one has done it yet. Several have tried, but not even hardcore streamers have gotten any luck. But all that loser talk only confirms one thing to Seojun, that it is indeed defeatable, so long as he's on the level of Heian herself. This gives him all the confidence he needs to aim for the fancy warrior play strategy. Heading up near the estate, our boy can feel the immense pressure of it all. From Taewoo, he learned that chatters love the idea of clowning on their favorite streamer, which is what these dudes are doing right now by laughing at our boy. With 3 more viewers gained so far, he thinks the pace is fine as long as they're not being out of line. Approaching the guards, our boy makes it absolutely clear he isn't here for any stealthy mission. He's just here to catch all the smoke. Seojin assures his chatters that he knows what to do, but they're hounding his ass and assuring him in return that he's dead meat anyway. The first knight jumps at him to seize the intruder, but this is where our boy stops geeking out and starts locking in. Seojin casually blocks the strike and follows with a clean return, defeating the first guard instantly. This is a huge upset for the chatters, who had absolutely no idea that this man was built differently. Bro literally parried like no big deal, and though our boy himself has no idea what happened, he merely plucks his weapon out of the enemy's corpse, questioning if it's so easy to kill these paperweight NPCs. One more tries to flank him. The sword god catches the attack with no difficulty, all the while reading his chat. They keep getting baffled with his consistent parrying. The term is new to Seojin, who looks down at his enemy before killing him too, netting another 1,000 points. In a hilarious plot twist, Bro asks his chat what a parry even is, and as you can expect, they're going crazy over the realization that he could do it twice without even knowing what it is. This confirms to them that it has to be a fluke, while our boy begs them to just give them the simple answer for the love of Truck Kun. After an explanation later, the streamer understands that blocking perfectly against a downward attack causes the opponents to automatically get stunned, but this is a move even retired pros face difficulty executing. The fact that pros struggled with it stuns our boy, who recalls that the level 9 AI he fought was already pro level, and it got destroyed pretty handily by Seojin, who now understands why it could be hard to use. Parrying requires perfect anticipation, and then the perfect counter-response, but thanks to his helpful chat, he now knows what it is. For his own safety, they beg him to turn back. But when did you last see Gojo Satoru back off from a fight? Exactly. Never. This is too easy for Seojin. His words begin to cause literal chaos in the chat. Half the people call him a lucky bastard while the others praise his talented movements. Anyway, the situation isn't too far off from his previous life either. Thanks to his own lowly background, people doubted him. Even after he defeated several big names from big sects, he was constantly underestimated. Seojin can tell that it's not exactly the same, but the situation is still similar. Lost in his thoughts, he arrives in front of 5 armed men. In the end, nothing really matters. He just has to prove his worth through sheer, undeniable results, which he does by straight up sending the first dude to the Shadow Realm. Another one flanks him with an aerial strike. The perfect parry opportunity arrives. Seojin gorgeously maneuvers back and confirms a hit, before landing hit after hit after hit, elegantly cutting all his enemies down. By the end of his slaughtering sequence, all bodies topple at his feet. He has become the aura monster that Subaru from Re:Zero, the anime, flopped to become. Radiating confidence, this man declares that they're gonna need at least 108 best Shaolin masters to even chance taking him down. Bro's words are so corny that the chat doesn't even get what the hell he's talking about. One last guy tries to run off to request reinforcements, only to get his head destroyed with a brutal stab. One thing's for sure, Seojin isn't soft. This man is a cold-blooded killer. 6 new bodies are added to his body count. His performance so far is genuinely enticing the chatters to ponder if this guy even is a beginner, or if he's gaslighting them all. One specific commenter begins spamming, and gets a warning that he'll be banned if he continues the behavior. The guy politely stops. Seojin knows that he needs to maintain order in the chat, but then he's met with some bratty chatters who don't give a damn about being banned from a loser streamer's chat. To give this arrogant prick exactly what he wants, our boy quickly bans his first viewer, maintaining peace for everyone else. The rest are happy with the outcome, which surprises the streamer, who realizes he's doing well, though he has no idea because of his past life experiences. Back then, the major sects always imposed restrictions on him, so he never knew what place to call his home, yet he couldn't even hide his talent, turning him into the lone sword god. Again, Bro's lonely ranting is interrupted with his master's ramblings, so he quits dozing off on that and reads the chat again. The dudes are intrigued how this guy has god-level control, or if he's using some kind of trick. They spam so many comments to know about his secret, and keeping it chill, our boy simply throws a thumbs up and says they have to remember their past lives. It's such an airball advice that they all go silent, before exploding on him for speaking nonsense. Anyway, Seojin navigates his way further inside, calling in all the attention from the rest of the guards, who have surrounded him from every direction like he's some god-level threat. Instead of being intimidated like the chatters, this guy is relishing the joys of being the first newbie who can pull off a 13 combo parry. The guards charge full speed to take down the steamer, and with only one enemy, the mission seems easy. But Seojin is out here delivering wide slashes, taking down multiple opponents all at the same time. Two guys get him from the back, but his spatial awareness accounts for that, causing him to duck with ease. The guy's movements are so amazing that the commenters wonder if he's got eyes at the back of his head too. The guards are just as surprised with this intruder's skill. Two of them try to attack at once, attempting to overwhelm the sword god with their joint strength. However, even that is inadequate. This man parries perfectly and goes for the headshot for both of them, donning an easy smile. We get an interesting perspective of one of the chatters in real life, who is literally thrilled to see this newbie wipe the floor with this game. Joam is actually a hardcore fan of the game itself. It's always one where stealth and assassination is prioritized. The first time the development team announced its release, he was ecstatic and was there from the start. The difficulty settings raised his expectations even more, helping him fuel his desire for a real challenge like games like these present. One small issue game, and that being the fact that the difficulty ended up becoming exceptionally too high, causing players to result in despair. The idea was to prioritize blowing up the whole building at this point, or even memorizing the target's routine because of how difficult it became bypassing the security. Hiding in 3 whole hours sometimes didn't even work. Joam worked his way through several streamers to find a reliable way, but found no good answers because of the difficulty. But now, right now, he's living the damn life. He's watching this one guy, dishing out superstar plays he's always wanted to cheer for. This same guy is executing high-level combos the world has never seen before. It fuels a kind of enthusiasm for Joam, who cheers loudly for the streamer by spamming in appreciation. Back to our boy, Seojin has obliterated the entire fleet of guards, leaving the chatters to question if they even deserve to see such a gorgeous spectacle. Bro doesn't get why they're all surprised though, making him wonder if it's truly that special. They insult the crap out of him for not reading the room of how special he is. He's straight up acting like a pro gamer out here, playing it cool against their insults. He even advises the chatters to turn the stream off if they're that bothered, but his nonchalant attitude only draws them more. By the way, the same 6 viewers collectively began following him too, until a sudden explosion kickstarts yet another sequence in the trial. The boss fight is here at last. Seojin casually dodges thanks to his tremendous reaction speed. The man in question is the noble himself, and while they're wondering if Seojin's gonna be enough, our boy speaks through his actions by leaping up top and going for the immediate kill, cutting past the boss. However, despite his perfect slash, the noble is unshaken, turning around with a grin on his face as if to ridicule that pathetic attempt. There wasn't even effective damage done, confirming to our boy that this dude is special. Then he consults the chat if maces can be parried, which makes them laugh out loud for his ideas of one-shotting the literal boss. The noble, on the other hand, goes ballistic with his mace, smashing his weapon all the way around, ripping pieces of the ground. Seojin seems to be doing just fine dodging the mace, while the noble confidently swings it, ready for anything this guy throws at him. Our boy leaps up top once again, this time delivering yet another wide slash, only taking away 3 health points. The noble retaliates with his mace, and though the streamer himself hasn't taken any damage, he is beginning to understand that the damage isn't even piling on anymore. This makes him question if he can clear the stage by repeatedly dealing chip damage. Joam chimes in to help his hero, explaining that if he doesn't kill Etere within 5 minutes, it's an automatic failure. The countdown is already down to the 4th minute, adding another layer of difficulty. Seojin nearly gets hit with the mace just being distracted for a moment, and knows that he's genuinely narrowed in for having no proper way of defeating this guy. This makes him wonder if he should try a different strategy of targeting vitals. Joam gives him the most useful tip ever. Attacking the same spot accumulates damage. This is just the information bro needed, because our boy uses the tip right away by leaping up top, slashing the noble's throat in the same position, multiplying the damage by several folds. It's clear that Etere is vulnerable to the same spot. Joam was correct, so now he just has to repeat the same thing over and over. The noble is in a pretty crappy position, but so is the countdown ticking down to the 2nd minute. Without wasting more time, the first thing Seojin does is grab the noble's weapon, making sure that there aren't any distractions in the way. The noble tries to hurl up a fist, roaring at the bastard to let go of his weapon. Of course, our boy dodges effortlessly, as his blade glides to Etere's neck once more, shaking 100 points off. More slashes continue. The damage multiplies on each hit, achieving an inhuman speed to take down the boss monster. The finishing flurry of slashes is so beautiful that the chatters are in awe. Only one hit now remains to go for the killing blow. Things are down to the last minute, and well, Etere's frantically rushing about, panicking and cursing at the assassination squad, declaring that he will not be taken out so easily. The mission ends right then with our boy delivering the final cut, concluding the streamer's amazing run, with a viewer quietly watching what went down. Joam couldn't contain his excitement. He had just witnessed one of the best things before his eyes. The news of our boy's clearance spread fast. By the way, we find ourselves back to the estate, where Etere is pulling one last move, surprising Seojin by casting a myriad of magic circles all over the place. Out comes the rumbling explosion, devouring the whole estate in destruction, nearly swallowing our boy too, but luckily he escaped. Seojin had clearly underestimated this guy's guts, having no idea that he could pull such a self-destruction magic spell at the last moment. Right as he came out, our boy ended up being confronted by even more guards, who ushered to catch the assassin swiftly. In the end, our boy ran away, escaping into the woods, completely exhausted and having used up his stamina. Yet the chase doesn't end. An arrow comes bursting his way, striking his shoulder as he leapt off by the edge of a cliff, realizing that he'd messed up. The last thing our boy sees is a glimpse of the person just up top, and so he crashes into the water, losing consciousness. The next time we find him waking up is by the same valley. His hand dips in the calm water, slowly waking him up. Looming over him is another figure, who has stumbled across his body. This man has the badge of a golden eagle, and confident in his discovery, switching to the player character screen. By the way, Dane just died an inescapable death sequence, so it's not like it's our boy's fault either. All this time, Seojin couldn't do anything because his body wasn't in control. The chatters are annoyed that the hype and aura moments end in a disappointing finish. Still, our guy maintained a positive attitude and wondered what he should focus on next. One of the chatters urged that he go to the tavern and head to Christina, the familiar character that he first met at the start. It's here that our boy realizes that he automatically moved to the tavern right after his character's defeat, so he heads inside and explores the setting. The people inside are bustling in joy, while the tavern lady appears to be none other than the stunning Christina herself. It's pretty damn obvious that no one could risk a chance of not talking to this girl, and noticing his sudden presence, she asks the customer if he needs anything. I have to remind you all that this is no longer Dane but our boy's own player character, which is why she has absolutely no idea who this charming man is. Our boy expresses that he needs a lot, but unfortunately the auto mode intervenes and whips out the eagle badge, stunning Christina right at once. The same girl that bro wanted to flirt with ended up giving the meanest stare of mankind, questioning his identity. The warm setting turned into a cold, tense atmosphere, with our boy emphasizing that there's no need to get so tense, he merely came here to help. To make his point clearer, Seojin reveals that he's pretty damn good when it comes to assassination, which puts her on high alert and makes her wonder if he's the expected man from the West. Playing along, our boy confirms this to be the case, while the blonde remembers how this dude is a greedy little weasel who would do anything for a few more coins. That's why he also wouldn't side with the secret society. With temporary tensions resolved, she believes it's only right to introduce themselves again. Calling herself Christina, she asks for the player's name, and right at that moment, Seojin is allowed to input his proper name. The others are curious what he'll input. As the streamer name is set to Seojin, bro didn't put any nicknames on his own, so it automatically treated his real name as a replacement. To make himself appear extra edgy and badass, bro inputs Nameless as his name, causing the chatters to bully him again for being so damn lazy. The hilarity to Seojin is how the same alias used to be a thing in the past, denoting several people all at once, a title that sounded mysterious to conceal identities of those in the Murim world. The system prompts him to confirm the name as Nameless, which he slaps a yes on, officializing him to receive proper assassination requests from the Sun Tavern, and something tells me this man is going to become the John Wick of this club. With the initial introduction settled, our boy asks what he should do to contact them. After receiving the badge, Christina curiously asks where the original owner is, but that poor guy is already dead, with the chatters hinting that she had a crush on him. To make it easy for her, our boy shares that he's buried the guy at the West Pier, and instead of being emotional about the subject, she offers him black signal stone to use as a contact. With the stone to his name, the mesmerizing Christina looks forward to working with him. Our boy exits the tavern, exhausted for the day, knowing he's done plenty already. The other chatters are confused if Bro is actually changing his identity to Nameless from now on, something Seojun confirms, though he doesn't care whatever they call him. The stream finally concludes after a long day's wrap-up. Our boy bids them all farewell, feeling flustered from the weight of cutely saying goodbye. Bro is trying his best to log out, but struggling hard as hell, despite his amazing skills. The chatters continue to make fun of him for being a noob. The system transports him back to the capsule, where he ends the sequence, recalling how his 6 loyal viewers watched from start to finish. Bro's still bummed about the usernames too. That's when a certain message pops up on his screen. The stream has already ended, and yet, he's found a new message. When the chat opens, our boy can't imagine how the hell these guys are joining even after the stream's gone. Seojun having some success. Let's circle back to Taewoo, who had fun in today's stream. Suddenly, our boy comes crashing in, causing Bro's face to get smashed by his phone. I'm calling that attempted murder because everyone knows how bad that shit hurts. Taewoo isn't pleased, and while his nose is sore, our boy shows him the chat that continues to keep piling on even after the stream ends. Even a veteran like this guy is absolutely stunned that the chat is still going on. To find out the truth, Taewoo shows his phone towards our boy, explaining that the news article must be his doing. Of course, the homeboy is genuinely frustrated that this man somehow got himself free marketing from the viewers. In other words, the article just allowed more and more viewers to pour into his stream. The same viewer, Joam, from back then is the cause of all of this. Taewoo explains that at the rate things are going, if it hits 30 recommendations, the article will show on the first page, further increasing the follower count. The already dead Taewoo suggests this clown to finally get his damn sleep for streaming all night, while our boy is a little disappointed that this so-called pro streamer is tired so easily. Anyway, back in his cozy bedroom, Seojun reads up on the recommendations piling up without stopping. This marketing effect seems to be doing wonders for him, and he intends to check in tomorrow. Tomorrow does arrive, and just like Homeboy's predictions, the count exceeded 30, boosting the article to the first page, allowing our boy to rack in more and more followers. In fact, people on the internet are duking it out right now over him. But what shocks our boy the most is the Assassination Squad community also posting about something. Here, one of the members has complained about the annoyance of the level 10 AI, which now tracks to some random player's data instead of Heian, making it impossible to face against. Curiously reading into the user's message, our boy clicks on the video attached to his note. The thing about Heian's AI is that it waits on standby if the user drops their sword. However, when it comes to this new AI bot, the fucker attacks, refusing to allow any openings go for free. Even the AI of our boy is cool as hell, even mocking his opponents for it, which is why the forum members are now curious if the player is also as much of a prick. Bro's getting destroyed by his personality and he knows it. The only reason Seojun believes that it turned out that way is because he genuinely talked with Taewoo while playing too. The whole thing feels unfair, but right now people don't seem to like his personality at all. Interestingly, one person seems to have noticed something interesting. It's Joam, who is beginning to seem like a creepy stalker dialing him down. Seojun takes a second to reel back. He never intended for so much attention to come pouring down his way in the first place. Too much of it altogether is clogging his mind, because it can prove to be harmful too, based on his experiences of his past life. Such a kind of power makes people crumble if they're not able to handle it, which leads to the sword god entering the capsule once again, knowing that he just simply needs to keep on grinding. His goal is to advance slowly, taking him back to the lobby area, which now shows his current sheet. The same guy who had 6 followers has now shot up to over 400 in a single day. Sure, these new guys are something, but the only ones who truly watched his stream were the original 6, which makes him wonder how many will join today. Curious, he starts his stream. The system greets Seojun and brings him back to the dawn of Assassination Squad game. This new stage is the city of Altion, which is further divided into 4 districts: Royal, Aetherius Spire, Gilded Quarter, and finally the Low Quarter. Each represents a different class of people. Players are going to be receiving assassination missions to go from one location to another, but it's actually possible to end up assassinating without having received a mission too. Exploring this new setting, our boy says hello to his lovely viewers, who encircle him with love and anticipation, wanting to see this guy's real skills in action. The new guys are honored to join the nameless stream. Our boy assures everyone that Joam isn't the one screaming this, and that he didn't bribe the kid either. The controversy is killed within seconds, clearing all rumors of paid marketing. Out of excitement, one guy donates 10,000 won right off the bat, questioning how he can find Etere in his own manner. Since this is his first donation, Seojun is a little pleased, and illustrates an easy answer to just strike repeatedly at one spot. And well, that was the most obvious clue ever. Everyone knows that, which leads to the chatters bullying him for misusing the guy's donation money. Knowing that he failed at explaining, our boy humbly tries again, this time giving a proper tip to strike the NPC's vital points, causing them to get flustered and break more sweat. This alongside the previous advice creates a proper guide on how to handle Etere. The same guy donates yet another 1,001 for the in-depth guide. Seojun notices how there's so many new people that he has absolutely no idea about, and when checking the viewer tab, he's baffled to see that over 300 are tuned in. Again, bro expected only 100 of these to show up, but the loyalty of his chat is comparable to iShowSpeed's chat if you ask me. Next comes the question of what Seojun should focus on for the day. One chatter is begging for some more warrior play. They really want to see him in action to prove his skills. Some other loyalist chatters are enraged by the suggestion of asking this man to prove his legendary skills. Seojun urges them not to fight for a bit. Among the idiots, one guy helpfully advises to look around for something he likes. It's easy to get commissioned for missions on the spot while sightseeing the city too. With several opinions all at once, the streamer ultimately comes to a decision, wondering if it's time to test his pickpocketing skills as a warm-up. Among the bustling crowd is a drunkard fool, who bumps into our boy, before questioning what the cloaked stranger's problem even is. While this dude is busy insulting the man who bumped into him, our boy casually achieved an even greater purpose thanks to his expert sleight of hand. After adapting the grappling technique, he now has full control over pickpocketing and even succeeded thrice in a row. The chatters begin to question if bro is now becoming a thief instead of a warrior all of a sudden. That whole Murim story is starting to make sense now. Well, pickpocketing to the chatters is only fun if the thief is being chased, but of course, Seojun wants to make sure he doesn't starve himself for now. He's collected so much money that he could easily get himself a penthouse. While he's busy eyeing down his money, two thugs decide to gang up on him, looking all mighty and tough. They try to intimidate him for trying to be slick with his stuff. One of them even questions if Seojun has permission to do business in the first place. Confused, our boy asks if he's being asked about the money, which is obviously what this clown is after. After pausing the game sequence, Seojun asks his chat what kind of stupid game uses thugs instead of guards to confront the thief, which makes them all laugh. Still in the pause sequence, our boy ponders the idea of taking both of these guys out after reading a wanted poster to eliminate the disassembler. Apparently, there's the goal of eliminating the gang boss, cleaning the market in the process. The goal is simple. Today's stream to our boy is going to consist of a lot of cockroach termination in these streets. At the same time, his very own chatters have no faith in this dude's abilities to catch the disassemblers. Some of them are excited because clearly this man doesn't even know what he's dealing with. The scene switches to the side of the disassemblers, that badge-wearing gang who is after one man. Alpaca, one veteran streamer with an amazing average viewership of 10,000, is fearing for his life for being caught in the middle of an assassination challenge. His chances are looking pretty slim right now, and his luck is pretty trash as the candle wax just next to him ends up melting, pouring down on Humpty Dumpty's bald head. The streamer is cooked because now his position is revealed, concluding the game in his death. With the mission restarting all the way over again, he curses his fate for dying repeatedly to these stupid gang members. Even his chatters remind him of his 4-failure streak in a row. The guy is fed up and genuinely wants to eliminate Drake to deal with the 4th district as a whole, but that's not an easy task. Even his loyal chatters know that it's impossible for a dude like him, especially when the rulers are unbeatable. The rulers are a special team of the syndicate responsible for managing the 4th district. These guys are also the main villains of the game itself. First up is the Grand Majesty Queen. Then there's the Master of the Ethereous Spire, even the head of the Royalist faction, and finally the boss of the Disassemblers, ruler of the 4th district, a fellow called Drake. This guy is specifically known for being extremely difficult to track. He's like a bug who spawns in one of 10 different bases. Quite the risk to start with. Anyway, Alpaca takes the map to hopefully try again, this time checking Drake's location first up. Based on the information he knows about the troop, it's clear that the 4th district's leader is hiding in some other place that isn't easy to find. One donation leads him with 10,001, asking that he do a warrior play instead of struggling so much. Alpaca is being pressured, and has no idea what warrior play he's even supposed to do in this damn game. The others are dead-ass serious about the suggestion, asking him to take a look at the community, which crops up his interest, causing him to go and check what's going on. In his mind, he's really hoping for someone to clear it, so that he can serve this person as his master and get a warrior play of his own finished on the leader. His words are quite the big deal. Alpaca thinks it's ridiculous for anyone to clear Drake in a warrior playstyle, so he doesn't really give a damn. Bro is just cheesing it when suddenly, all of his chat members begin to laugh in his damn face. Dude realizes his confidence is going to end up in the gutter. His own viewers call him a pathetic loser for being so much of a coward. The dude is getting even worse treatment than our boy, with more donations pressuring him to follow through with his words. Right then, the scene cuts to an invasion in one of the bases. The disassemblers immediately set up a formation to block the assailant, who is none other than the Chad of all Chads, Seojin himself. Just 30 minutes before Alpaca's till the end stream declaration, we had our boy who met the thugs in the alleyway. The alley's atmosphere was notably dark, but the best lead Seojin had was to follow these guys without any intentions of fighting. He's also quite surprised when he learns that the syndicate is not easy to catch. The chatters berate him for thinking that hunting down the rulers is going to be a cakewalk or something. Our boy has absolutely no idea about the rulers either, getting him shit-talked and laughed at for a whole minute straight by the entire chat. Some are so entertained they even begin donating him. Well, the good news is, at least our boy managed to personally look up a guide to hunt down Drake last night. But even after all the choices he had, he found the plan difficult to execute. Then came the very simple strategy. Beat all their asses and literally make sure he makes them suffer. Anyway, Seojin was told to surrender everything that he had, even the wallet he stole earlier, which these guys seem to perfectly know about. The chatters think this fight's gonna be an easy piece of cake, because this same dude wiped out 13 dudes on his own. Ginger Hair is trying to intimidate and threaten him, but Seojin is stone cold, glaring at them as they command him to just surrender his money and they won't eat his face off. Asking politely, our boy asks if they know about Drake's location. Obviously the thugs confirm that they know, but they're genuinely bothered that this idiot is casually asking about their boss's coordinates. Knowing that these clowns won't comply so easily, Seojin believes kicking their asses is the only way to handle things. Bro's punches are the best way to communicate the message after all. These poor victims had no idea what they were getting in trouble with, and foolishly decided to flank our boy from behind. The former sword god swiftly leaps up and away, dodging the strike and gaining perfect distance from the first attacker. The second one comes piping hot, nearly stabbing his face, but Seojin is able to evade and toss this man's body like it's a piece of cardboard. The first dude is down, and his weapon is now Seojin's to use. Then comes the redhead, who thinks shouting his attack is going to lend him an advantage. The punk gets perfectly parried, stunning him momentarily, and using this momentum, Seojin aims for the finishing blow, ending another one of their lives. Just like that, all of these punks have been eliminated warrior punk style. The chatters are super impressed and entertained by this streamer's unique playstyle. Ginger Hair, the one who had the most confidence earlier, is now whimpering like a kitten. Our boy rears his blade over to his head, inquiring about Drake's location. Of course, the dumbass doesn't want to talk even now, so this man nearly cuts him in half, instilling the fear of death to the point he's left trembling. Knowing that there won't be another warning, the ginger-haired thug watches Seojin threaten him without any ideas of mercy. This kind of torture is literal madness according to even the chatters, because by the end of it all, the clown is left with a sore head, and he gave out all the information too. The chatters are pretty impressed once more that Seojin has the smarts to obtain information and handle missions his own way. But our boy's current problem is the length of this tiny dagger as he searches for a different weapon around the place. He notices one peculiar weapon that catches his interest, and that's how we fast forward to the present, where crashes into their base using a damn pipe. Pipeman and his piping techniques have returned, as he unstoppably blitzes past the entire group, demolishing all of them with the most powerful weapon in all of fiction. This deadly pipe packs quite the punch, but what's astonishing Seojin right now is how hard the difficulty of this mission is, since he just faced 30 people and is expected to do an assassination on top of it all. While he's busy pondering the intricacies of the level, a certain man's voice expresses his amusement. Suddenly, a projectile comes out of nowhere, nearly cutting our boy's face with Pipeman avoiding it just in time. Even though he looked cool dodging that one strike, Bro's composure breaks the moment he realizes that hundreds of swords are flying towards him at rapid speeds. Temu Gilgamesh is back at it again with his projectile ability, but worry not, because our boy Aura farms to the moon and back by using his trusty pipe to deflect them all. The chatters can't even fathom his godlike reaction speed, earning the praise of the leader himself. At the same time, The player's actions have notably upset Drake, and so he taunts Seojin, questioning if the filthy casual can parry what's about to come next. The leader of the disassemblers throws his special knives imbued with magical energy. All of them shoot full speed. There's just way too many of them to deal with. So this time, Seojin goes for the smarter approach by whirling his pipe in a circular motion, blocking each hit that was meant to turn him into a cheese slice full of holes. The deflections are beautifully delivered, causing most knives to get pinned in the surrounding, with even one of them slicing past Drake's face, making him bleed. Our boy has the greatest shit-eating grin ever, as if to say, "Gotcha, bitch," while his fans continue to cheer for him, yet question all the same why he couldn't parry that. Drake now holds the player in high regard and asks for his name, only to learn that he's nameless. The basic NPC response praises him for having such a name, and he even nods to the fact that the strong deserve to be respected. Hence, this man stops holding back and releases all of his strength, gathering dual blades, as well as 2 chain spears for his weapon, making him a complicated opponent. The chain blades are the first ones to come after the sword god, who deflects the first hit casually, not knowing another one is pushing for an attack from behind. It really seems like this one is going to connect, but right at the end, Seojin beautifully connects a kick, knocking the blade up and breaking its momentum. Back when Drake was only throwing daggers, our boy had the impression that this dude was a fraud even worse than the noble Edere. But with the current state of things, Seojin can finally understand why this weapon alone makes it a real challenge to defeat Drake in a fight. The sword god respects the developers for placing emphasis on battle mechanics, which almost exclusively encourages you to aim for warrior plays. Drake questions if his opponent has stopped attacking, and because of that, he's the one to rally in for the offensive, clashing his blades against our boy's godly pipe. The godly pipe is still mighty enough to overwhelm Drake, causing him to use his chain spears, which are also successfully evaded by Seojin. The chatters are starting to get bored of the fact that he's only playing defense so far, and Seojin himself has now assessed that this guy is even more difficult than taking on 13 guards at once. Regardless of the difficulty, the sword god has survived the mountain of blades and the forest of swords in his previous life, which means he always knows a path to victory. The solution for this opponent is to cut past the distance and penetrate through the layers of defenses. Drake anticipates Seojin's move, but right as he even responds with a counter, our boy ends up successfully parrying the aerial stroke, stunning the leader right into position. This attack normally kills regular mobs, but someone like Drake can only leave him with a window to attack again. At the same time, he's figured out that the chains will always position themselves to protect the leader, but the same doesn't work for him. In other words, the sword god merely has to connect a proper hit, so he activates a stance of his ancient techniques, planting his feet into the ground and transferring all his powers from his solid lower body to manifest the ultimate high guard stance. The spirit of the sword god channels through to him, as this time Seojin leads with the finishing blow aimed right at Drake's head, obliterating him in a single hit. The chatters have absolutely no idea what just happened again. All they know is how easy this man makes everything look with his skills. Because the game is virtual reality itself, Seojin lacked the confidence in his technique just now, but it seems to have carried over without any problems. From his footwork to the twisting of his torso, each movement of his arms, everything is fine-tuned to the smallest adjustment, which means it's not much different from having a real body. Suddenly the chain slips and tries to catch our boy off guard. Seojin dodges and gains some distance, and it appears the big bad guy still hasn't gone down. He aims to kill the invader with more of his offensive maneuvers. Only this time, our boy is faster and delivers a cut so strong that it breaks apart the chain weapon Drake had. Thanks to this, his opponent is no longer protected. Something about swinging his weapon gives our boy a sense of ecstasy and proof of his existence from his previous life. The clash results in utter domination for Drake, whose blades are flung about. Standing over is Seojin, ready to deliver the finishing blow, which he does by using the same pipe to unleash destruction. By the end, Drake's face now forever kisses the ground, while the system concludes the end of the adventure by killing the leader of the fourth distraction. As expected, the chatters immediately start dick-riding our boy, even though they love trash-talking to him every other time. Seojin notices his viewer count, which shoots up to 450 watching, once more experiencing a massive jump. At the troop location, Seojin is left questioning how the hell his viewership began skyrocketing, rising higher than even his current follower count. For a moment, bro starts genuinely blushing, even though my guy was exclusively told not to obsess over these numbers. Still, the feeling makes him really happy, and my guy's poker face is barely containing his happiness. The rest of the chatters are beginning to think that this man is playing his own different game with the question he's asking lately. A donation of 10,000 won from Spoon Murderer comes with the message that this man creepily murdered everyone with a pipe. Thus, the alias Pipe Murderer is born. The scariest part is that even without the damage increase buff, this man would have easily defeated Drake with ease. Thanking the donator, our boy is confused about one main thing. Why the hell are the guards still not here? The place is vacant and guards normally should flood this place. But apparently guards never waltz in between missions, though they're always going to pop up during pickpocketing situations. Heading out of that location, our boy is met with another cloaked player who has no idea about. Seojun inquires about their identity, and well, it turns out to be Christina instead of a proper player, looking gorgeous as always. She's brought him a hefty salary for helping free them of oppression. This reward also comes with an increase in his reputation for succeeding. The strange part is how he's receiving a reward, despite not catching Drake while officially being on a mission. The chatters confirm that this happens all the time. Rewards are common even without a proper quest. Still, it's not like bro can spend this money. He's got all the pipes in the world to use as weapons after all. The hilarious part is that Drake is watching from heaven, questioning why this psychopath bothered to kill him when he didn't even want the money. The next question is where our boy is headed next. Christina wants to know but respects his privacy and heads out looking cool as ever. Seojin bids farewell to his baddie, returning to his mission. The so-called assassination was never even a success since bro never attempted it in the first place. Still, it's time for my guy to clock out and end the stream. He's tired of his life and wants to leave already, but his parasocial fans are dying for him to hang out just for a bit longer. Completely burned out, Seojin bids farewell and leaves, awakening from the capsule and emerging outside of it. Taewoo is sitting there doom-scrolling. It's weird enough that he's here in his room, explaining that he watched the guy's broadcast and found it fun. That much is fine, but our boy really doesn't like the idea of someone else being in his bed, so he smacks the clown with a pillow to teach him a lesson. After enough beatdown, he asks about the state of the broadcast, or if there was an interesting reaction. Turns out the viewer count was quite the highlight. Seojin snatches his phone to see for himself, watching how ruthless bro appeared to be with his threats. But this same ruthlessness made many people his fans. They seem to treat him as some kind of protagonist from a manhwa story, which is a pretty clever fourth wall break. Anyway, there's still zero insight on Shard of Order, which is only achievable through a warrior play event. Our boy has no idea what it's even for, though he reads another post from a user who is hating his ass. Taewoo thinks it's part of the game to have a few haters at least. Attention turned into something more real. Curious for advice, Seojin asks what he should do, and learns from Taewoo that the community base normally consists of 10,000 people. In other words, bro's telling him to get even more famous, which won't be just a walk in the park like he suspects. At that moment, he receives a sudden post about Alpaca, who is another streaming artist known for attempting warrior playstyles. His fancy whole bet is now becoming his own downfall. Meanwhile, our boy has found the perfect bait to trap a popular streamer. He comes into Taewoo's room, inquiring about the streamer who goes by the name of Alpaca. And of course, this guy knows him thanks to their previous collabs. It's just the hook that Seojin needs because he tasks the guy for a little favor. Speaking of Alpaca, my dude is on a constant loss streak still, having failed a whopping 13 times, getting thumbs down from all his fans. Things are looking pretty rough as he can't find any other way to suitably defeat Drake. But then comes a lobby mascot D-Back1. This thing is a cutie pie, but instead of comforting him, bro spits on his face, scaring the crap out of the dude. Not even the cute animal shows any respect for my guy anymore. Still, he can't sit around moping about his situation right now. One of the donors reminds him of his bet to serve anyone who cleared the Drake quest through warrior play. The immense shock that this man experiences when he goes to check the forum and clicks the link to see how one dude managed to defeat Drake, that being none other than the nameless Seojin. It's unfathomable to the blonde how this guy managed to get one over the 4th district leader, prompting all sorts of questions about his identity. Coincidentally, he also receives a sudden text, startling him, but the moment he opens it up, he's surprised to see Taewoo, who intends to connect the two streamers together for a conversation. At movie Soft Korea, we have Eve Paimo, the CEO of the company, enjoying his coffee, when suddenly bro's day is ruined with his assistant crashing on the door. The dude scolds him for ruining his coffee and asks for an update, only to learn that something massive has just happened. One ruler has been defeated through the process of warrior play. The scene becomes tense right off. Drake is confirmed to be the defeated ruler, but his defeat to the present seems understandable since the other rulers are way more powerful. Paimon always suspected someone to beat the guy someday anyway, and believes this isn't an issue. If each shard of order gathered, however, their plans will be ruined forever. But the assistant specifically made sure to design and prevent such a possibility like that happening in the first place. Speaking of which, the first shard of truth has been collected. Its only condition is to defeat each ruler through warrior playstyle. At the same time, the strongest ruler among them won't be defeated without acquiring a special skill on top. This skill will act as an amplifier to seize massive amounts of energy to unlock. Several have tried in desperation to achieve the skill, but none have achieved it anyway. There are greater concerns at present, starting with the fact that the person who defeated Drake was online a few moments ago. CEO Paimon hears this and immediately catches it, questioning how this dude knows for sure that the streamer was logged in, basically confirming that this guy has been slacking off. The boss yells at the clown for doing a shitty job as he runs off, leaving him in an angrier state than before. What truly terrifies him is the idea that all shards of the orders will end up being collected. Anyway, back to Alpaca, who is told of a collaboration invitation, and even though there isn't supposed to be any good material, it's still worth a shot for him to go. He assures Suhan that there's one element he's missing from all of this, and it's the fact that the other guy he's going to meet with is special. In fact, Bro's gonna have to invite him for his Master Showcase stream. Suhan explains that the guy he's placing on a pedestal has only streamed for a few days at best, believing that the kid is just great at assassination games instead of his streaming journey. Still, Alpaca begs him to let Seojin use the capsule for a while, even though they have a spare capsule in place already. Alpaca then goes on to explain that our boy suffers from a low synchronization rate, which means only the finest and most expensive capsules can allow him to play. It further baffles Suhan that someone like that could end up in the position of being a master, and he intends to monitor the reactions of the stream during the collaboration. Anyway, his prickly attitude is the same as ever, but Alpaca is getting a sudden reality check. The reality check that this newbie pulled off a warrior play in conditions that weren't even suited for him. This begs the question how strong he truly is, and if he's even some kind of malicious thug or a criminal in real life. This scares the casual gamer because Bro thinks he might have threatened his life, when suddenly our boy finally arrives, introducing himself with a lethal pretty boy face card, Seojin himself. The dude is totally normal, even more handsome than the guy's own avatar, so things are looking pretty good for Alpaca. Bro's getting so much insecurity because he knows he has to customize a crap out his character just to reach Seojin's beauty standards. Anyway, Taewoo is also here to accompany and mediate them. The party acclimates with each other and they're brought into Alpaca's residence. Inside, the place looks pretty elegant. The workspace and living location is different. Taewoo wants to help Alpaca out for coffee, so both of them catch up with each other, leaving our boy all by himself to meet with Suhan. The guy introduces himself as the manager and editor of Alpaca's streams, and our boy casually shakes his hand with zero animosity. He wonders if this is some kind of way to assert dominance. Suhan straight up calls the shots on our boy's low synchronization, even piling on Seojin's lack of experience. Keeping his composure, the sword god responds politely, sharing that he first played the game 7 years back. This changes the situation a bit. Suhan is curious what his level was back then. He doesn't believe for a second that this man was in silver and somehow became god level after a break. In fact, this guy wants to test him right away in the sparring ground, insisting that he test his skills in front of everyone for himself. Taewoo teases this angry editor for being so bitter, even playfully warning the dude not to spar with Seojin. Suhan is far too arrogant with his head up his ass, but Taewoo already knows the outcome of this match after seeing our boy's skills. To paint the picture of what he's really talking about, Taewoo lets out the secret that he wants to keep between the four of them. The secret that this man sitting over there is the embodiment of level 10, which also confirms the real identity of the new level 10 AI bot. Alpaca and Suhan curiously clicked on the video. They watched the unknown newbie absolutely demolish the 10th stage AI of the training grounds. Each sword swing was precise and forceful. Hitting the bot's weapon at just the right angle, he was able to shatter the blade. Only one word could describe that footage: insane. Pulling off something so crazy against AI Shin Haeyeon is unprecedented. It was a completely one-sided victory. Except for the ones he took on purpose, he wasn't hit even once. The cherry on top was the trash talk at the end. He really told the bot to devote another 80 years to training just to defeat him. The swag was insane. Suddenly, Alpaca is starting to feel the pressure for their collaboration stream. On the sidelines, Kim Taewoo was bragging as he was the one who broke the record. After watching the whole clip, Suhan had seen enough. While the chuds were messing around in the background, he approached Jin Seojin. Lee Suhan looked him in the eye and vowed that from now on, he would serve Seojin as his big bro. He bowed with perfect form, paying respects to his new idol. Alpaca and Taewoo, who thought shit was about to go down, but they were worrying needlessly. Seojin, on the other hand, was left standing there in utter confusion. Lee Suhan wholeheartedly stated that anyone good at gaming is a big bro that must be treated with respect. While Seojin was thankful for the acknowledgement, technically speaking, he should be treated as a big bro. Considering his age, it would be more fitting to call him an elder. The goofballs just watched them interact while snickering amongst themselves. Taewoo's annoying laugh had to be shut down via a tissue box to the face. More importantly, Alpaca remembered a certain incident 7 years ago, around the time Seojin quit playing. Could it be possible that he was that user on the verge of making waves back then? Suhan interrupted his suspicions by reminding him that it's almost time for their scheduled broadcast. They need to get ready now. Even though he should be thinking about the stream, Alpaca couldn't shake the feeling that there is more to Seojin than meets the eye. Or maybe he was just overthinking things. Before Seojin could murder his roommate using a box of tissues, Alpaca invited them to the stream room. Lee Suhan enthusiastically led his big bro to his personal capsule to use for the collab. He was practically groveling and pleading for Big Bro to use his console, casting his own boss aside with a slap in the face. Finally, Alpaca clicked the Go Live button, and the chatters quickly flooded the stream. They have been eagerly waiting for his broadcast. With a playful smile, Alpaca appeared in front of his audience. He had announced the stream in advance, and his audience was getting antsy to get to the main event. Alpaca was disappointed to see his chatters hype up the collab while ignoring his intro. All it took was one positive comment to lift his spirits up. Finally, someone tuned in to see him. To be more specific, they tuned in to see him suffer another endless endurance run. Alpaca was baited. Out of annoyance, he threw that chatter in the ban list indefinitely. Instead of another failed endurance run, today's stream will feature a legendary Musu run. With a cheerful tone, Alpaca directed everyone's attention behind him to introduce the professor who would teach him how to be peerless in the game. Bright lights came from the shabby wooden crate in the background, building suspense as it slowly opened. Every chatter held their breath. The crate blew open, but Jin Seojin was nowhere to be seen for his grand reveal. Alpaca and his chatters were confused at first. Then, they started roasting him for being delusional. They teased him for having an imaginary friend as a so-called professor. Some even impersonated Jin Seojin in his chat, asking to be paid before showing up. Alpaca had to prove that he wasn't going crazy by showing his DMs. Seojin had borrowed Kim Tae-woo's account to message him. Alpaca added that they even planned to stream an offline after-party later. When they finally added each other as friends in-game, Jin Seojin messaged him on his own account for an invite since he didn't know how to get to someone else's lobby. Alpaca and every active chatter alike were taken aback. Soon after, a cascade of chats laughing at the certified noob interaction came rushing in. Even Alpaca wondered whether Seojin was doing a funny bit for the stream. He had to put up his livestream banner for a minute while helping Seojin get into his lobby. When he finally got in, the so-called Musu professor apologized for being late to the party and introduced himself. Alpaca laughed off his little stumble. Technically speaking, Seojin is still a beginner after all. The whole chat continued roasting him for trying to learn from a noob who doesn't even know how to enter a lobby. The firepower of 19,000 viewers collectively making fun of one guy was quite something. In just a few moments, they will break through the 20,000 viewer mark, and the comments are growing spicier by the second. Seojin hadn't even considered that making fun of the streamer has become its own type of content. It sounds like the types of chatters in a live stream vary heavily depending on the streamer's personality. Some streamers figuratively tie up their viewers, beating them up to submission, while other streamers pursue a completely clean broadcast. Alpaca's chat was a lot different than Seojin's fledgling fanbase. Still, he could see the charm of the free atmosphere that Alpaca cultivated. The barrage of insults continues on, making Seojin worry about getting roasted for his skills in turn. As everyone who's been keeping up with the forums knows, Jin Seojun defeated Drake on his own, forcing Alpaca to stand by his promise to stream until he does the same. Some idiot donated 1,000 won to add salt to Alpaca's fresh wound, making him consider bringing out the ban hammer. Seojin tried to hide it, but seeing the goof get cooked by his chat was really funny. When asked not to laugh, Seojin stifled his chuckle and admitted that he feels a slight sense of responsibility for putting Alpaca in a difficult situation. He added that he was wrong for defeating Drake without realizing that someone out there was confidently declaring it impossible to defeat a boss with Musu gameplay. The chat was heavily on board with Seojun's indirect roasting. Alpaca watched as his guest took control of 20,000 viewers like a natural. Considering how many people were watching, he seemed awfully relaxed. Actually, it looked like he was enjoying every bit of attention. Alpaca played up his loser persona and begged his so-called professor to save him from his past mistakes. For today's broadcast, the stream with Seojun will be split into two portions. The first one is finally going into the game with Seojun to receive his godlike teachings. The next portion will have to wait until the Musu endurance run succeeds. Before they boot up Dawn of the Assassins, Alpaca asked him what basic skills he leveled up. Much to his surprise, Seojun answered that he had never touched a skill. He basically grinded barehanded. Alpaca thought he would have at least put points into basic passive skills that increase attack and movement speed. But Seojun truly was a skill virgin. He's practically a god gamer running around and soloing bosses naked. Alpaca was utterly astounded by what he just heard. Naturally, he asked why on earth someone would do that to themselves. The truth was very simple. Seojun didn't use skills due to the simple fact that he didn't know how to even access that shit. He thought it would sound a bit pathetic if he just admitted that. So, the official reasoning he gave to Alpaca and his chat was an aura answer. He didn't use skills because he didn't need to. The chatters praised Seojun for being a gigachad, and continued roasting Alpaca for being a useless chud. Ever since Seojun showed up, the entirety of Alpaca's live audience, all 25,000 of them, had turned on their streamer. At least the viewer count is still increasing at a rapid pace. The second thing he'll be doing with Seojun is related to the subject of skills. First, Alpaca played a clip for his chat. It was the first video recording showing the discovery of the seam. A random user uploaded a clip of himself accidentally finding the so-called seam and crushing the enemy's weapon in the process. It was followed by a quest to unlock a skill called weakness detection by destroying 10 weapons by finding and breaking their seam. The chat refused to believe that Alpaca could pull off something so complicated. He yapped about the concept of seam that comes up in fantasy novels. It was basically a fancy term for the weapon's weak point that allows for exploits. If Alpaca can find 10 of those, he can unlock the Identify Weakness skill. So far, he's found a total of 2 seams. One is from a rapier that happened to break by accident, and the other is the seam of a longsword he learned about through a side quest NPC. As for what kind of skill Identify Weakness is, Alpaca had no idea. It is the last skill he has yet to unlock in the game. Apparently, Seojun thinks he can figure out the rules behind those seams on his own. By claiming that Seojun could essentially break the game on his own, Alpaca sowed distrust among his chatters. To make things a little bit more exciting, he proposed a bet on whether Jin Seojun could figure out the trick behind seams before today's stream ends. You see, Travel has a channel point system where viewers can accumulate points by watching any broadcasts. Chatters can use their points to change chat effects or make various demands to the streamer. It cannot be converted to cash, making it a trivial currency. However, there was another real reason channel points are universally beloved among viewers: gambling. Baby. The channel point prediction option allows them to bet points on the outcome of a broadcast freely. Alpaca gave his chat plenty of time to submit their bets, with plenty of choices for putting their channel points in. They could bet on finding 2 seams by pure luck, maybe 3 or 4. They could also gamble on a complete strikeout or a home run. Obviously, the majority of his chatters would take the safe bet while trashing the degenerate gamblers who were betting on the underdog long shot. As the name suggests, a safe bet is the more likely outcome, but the payout is low even if it hits. On the contrary, an underdog bet has horrible odds with the possibility of a huge payout. The mass majority gravitated towards predicting the discovery of 2 seams by pure luck. Now that he's familiar with gambling terms, Seojun addressed the chat in earnest and encouraged them to bet on the underdog to 100x their channel points. The first to follow his encouragement was the assassin of Joseon, one of Seojun's first viewers. The madman bet every point he had saved up for 3 years, trusting that his streamer would hit a home run. Naturally, Alpaca's chat clowned him for being a sucker. Seojun, on the other hand, congratulated Joam in advance for the guaranteed 100x max win. Finally, Alpaca and Seojun booted up Dawn of the Assassins. They spawned near a lavish mansion where a young NPC was sadistically cutting up a young man. The young man desperately apologized to his lord on his knees, begging to be spared. Instead of showing mercy, the young lord dared his victim to run away and save himself. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy as he crawled away, but Lewis Neville never intended to let him go. Watching the torture scene from afar, Alpaca explained to Seojin that Lewis is the son of Richard Neville, ruler of the far northeast. Alpaca dared Seojin to check the young lord's skills and lend him an ordinary steel sword to use. Even if one knows where to hit the seam to break it, actually pulling off such a precise strike is not that easy at all. Alpaca would know. He tried recreating the video many times, and he found it harder than parrying. While he was yapping on and on about how luck plays a part in breaking a seam, Seojin pounced at the sadistic brat. He broke the enemy's flimsy sword in one strike and pressed the attack for a one-hit KO. Just like that, he unlocked the quest to unlock weakness detection. One seam down, 9 more to go. The chat buzzed with a mix of praise for Seojin and mockery of Alpaca. The Musu god is just built different. Admittedly, Alpaca failed a ton, barely succeeding in breaking Lewis's rapier. Still, one successful attempt doesn't necessarily prove that he could replicate the process. But that only applies to normal players. Jin Seojin, nameless himself, had finally confirmed that his method was correct. Still skeptical, the chat called him a snake oil salesman for trying to sell them an impossible idea. Alpaca tried to keep his chat in check, but the guards finally arrived, and they were marked as intruders. This was the perfect opportunity to convert the non-believers one slash at a time. Seojin was very familiar with the concept of exploitable weak points. In his past life, the Shaolin monks who achieved insight were able to see beyond the surface world. Even though his martial prowess as the sword god was at the pinnacle, he was not a monk, so he couldn't see what they saw. But still, he was trained to emulate that so-called insight. Just like back then, he just needed to grasp the true intent of the fighter in front of him. Once he gets a good grasp of the enemy's intent, the many cracks in their stance will automatically reveal themselves. This time, Seojin welcomed the incoming guards with his eyes closed, making the chatters think he had given up. A shield-bearer tried to knock him off his feet, but he simply swung his blade at the perfect angle. Grasping the guard's intent, the exploitable seam on the shield's surface revealed itself. Cutting through the invisible line that only Seojin could sense was a breeze. In complete darkness, seeing through the armament's essence was a smoother process. Contrary to what the chatters were expecting, Seojin was able to shatter an enemy's weapon for the second time in a row. It was then and there that Alpaca knew that he was watching greatness in action. The chat was equally flabbergasted by the display of insane mechanics. That man just found a seam, destroyed the weapon, and killed the guard with his eyes closed. It was some truly genius-level stuff. Alpaca was about to interview Seojin about what he just did, but was distracted by a 1,001 donation calling the stream disgusting, rigged, and fake. Being accused of faking and scripting a stream made Alpaca heated, as he denied the baseless claims. Up until a second ago, he was one of the people who thought Seojin was just bluffing. How could he rig the fight if he was a non-believer himself? Many chatters jumped on the bandwagon, condemning the broadcast as a fake stream. In truth, most of them were just salty because they lost precious channel points on a bad bet. Seojin defended himself by reminding everyone that he told them to trust and bet on his success in the first place. According to the betting board, the safe bettors weren't the only ones in danger now. Only 1% of the audience predicted that he would find 4 or more seams in a single stream. That means 99% of chatters with channel points on the line are about to get screwed. At least they'll all be screwed together. As long as they don't fail alone, it should be fine. Seojin shared that sentiment and turned the atmosphere lighthearted amongst the chatters. Alpaca was very impressed by Seojin's ability to tease the viewers while leading the flow in his favor and staying likable. He's not just good at the game, he has a good sense for streaming too. Jin Seojin is the perfect collab partner. Alpaca won't have to carry the stream by himself. With the guards out of the way, he interviewed the man of the hour regarding what he had just accomplished. The chatters were curious what his actual job was in real life to have such monstrous skills and reaction time. To satisfy their curiosity, he truthfully answered that he's just an ordinary chill guy in his 20s. Alpaca was insulted that this dude, of all people, claimed to be ordinary. Calling himself just a chill guy with a face sculpted by the gods should be considered criminal. Alpaca revealed to his chat that what they see in the game is exactly how Nameless looks in real life. No customization required. The chatters didn't know what to feel. Some of them demanded a balance patch to nerf his looks, and some of them simply accepted that the world is unfair sometimes. One chatter donated 10,000 won just to say that something has got to be small to balance Seojin out. It took a moment for Alpaca to understand, but as soon as he did, he turned into a chihuahua willing to call on his greatest weapon, the permaban. Seojin had to hold him back from nuking his chat. In the end, he agreed to let the disrespect to his master's pecker slide just this once. Behind the scenes, the donor was hounded by the other chihuahua lurking in the chat. Lee Soo-hun extorted the poor donor's wallet for a bailout. Getting back in the game, Alpaca repeated his question about how Seojin was able to pull it off. To be honest, he wasn't exactly seeing the seam. According to him, he just instinctively knows where it is due to the simple fact that he is a genius. Alpaca wanted to hit him in the head right then and there. After getting over the initial shock, the entire chat erupted in laughter at the obnoxious answer and Alpaca's reaction. Slumping and melting on his feet, Alpaca urged Seojin to show mercy and elaborate on his answer a little more. To give them a different explanation, Seojin claimed he was just thinking about what the developers would have done. He's basically saying he read the developers' minds just by seeing two examples. Everyone knows that the simpler parry was added to the game for clearing mobs efficiently. Hitting the seam must have been designed to be a more difficult version of that. However, a successful seam hit only breaks the weapon and does not deal any extra damage. In short, the seam system wasn't really designed to be used against normal mobs. The game shows the player three paths. Either play the game normally through assassinations, speedrun it with Musu parries, or master the seam for weapon breaks. This system of breaking equipment is meant for boss fights. The first boss, Drake, had an ironclad defense and attacks that were nearly impossible to parry. Rather than giving a lecture about game systems, the clear-eyed madman casually announced that he would try taking down the second ruler for a demonstration. Naturally, the underdog bettors who were holding the line suggested that he should find a safer enemy first before going after the ruler, in fear of losing their points. Instead of listening to the gamblers in chat, Seojin asked Alpaca to open one more point prediction betting line. Of course, it will be a wager on whether he can destroy the ruler's equipment today or not. This time, the channel point prediction was much simpler. A simple yes or no bet. Jin Seojin reminded the viewers to trust and follow his lead. Go all in on yes. After killing the son, it is now time to face the father. The ruler of the far northeast, and royalist leader, Richard Neville, was programmed to avenge his piece of shit son by any means necessary. Clad in full armor and equipped with a great sword, he suffocated Seojin with non-stop attacks. Despite the ruler's onslaught of deadly and unpredictable attacks, Mr. God Gamer was still in full health. He tried to sense the wildly winding seam running across the great sword, but it felt impossible to exploit. Even Alpaca, who was spectating from the sidelines, had no idea how Seojin could pull this off through sheer mechanics. The fight was taking a little too long for his liking. While continuously bobbing and weaving from ferocious sword strikes, he read Alpaca's waning belief that he could find the seam. He didn't even look at Alpaca's direction, yet he read his thoughts perfectly. The degenerate gamblers in the chat were starting to turn on Lord Nameless. According to some more experienced viewers, Richard Neville's weapon is made of a special material. That sword might not even have a seam to abuse at all. Hearing that stirred Seojin's competitive spirit. His senses expanded past the sword and enveloped the ruler's entire being. It's time to check whether this boss was really unexploitable. Finally, Richard swung his great sword wide and strong, making a full arc. Nameless sidestepped the impact and prepared an attack of his own. The boss was growing tired of his repeated tricks, insisting that nothing could break him. But Richard Neville was sorely mistaken. For the first time since the fight started, Seojin was able to stab a weak point with the tip of his blade. He did not stop there. Taking the ruler of the far northeast by surprise, he drove the blade even deeper into Richard's virtual flesh. Alpaca was hyped. This might be the turnaround he was waiting for. As soon as that blade pierced through the armor's gap, it was basically over. Seojin's view of the seam had never been clearer. He followed that clear line and systematically dismantled Richard Neville's armor with frightening speed and accuracy. The unlock condition for weakness detection requires 10 broken weapons via the seam. He met that requirement in one boss fight by dismantling the royalist leader's armor piece by piece. Alpaca and his chat were losing their collective minds. They never would have thought that the troublesome second ruler of the game could be dominated in such a way. As a result, zero-skill Seojin became the first player to acquire the rarest skill in the game, weakness detection. Like a veteran entertainer, he turned to his audience and admitted his mistake. The chat was right. The ruler's sword was unbreakable without a seam to abuse. The same cannot be said for Richard Neville's armor and body, though. By the time the borrowed capsule opened up, the sun was already setting. When Jin Seojin opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Lee Soo-hun, respectfully bowing and showering him with praise for an incredible stream. Seojin also thanked Soo-hun for letting him borrow a top-of-the-line capsule, but little bro responded by lowering his bow to a perfect 90-degree angle to one-up his gratitude. If anything, Suhan was honored to let his capsule experience the gameplay of a god gamer. When they returned to the living room, Kim Tae-woo surprisingly stuck around. He canceled his own stream to watch. There was no way he would miss his roommate's first collab. Tae-woo also urged him to hurry up and leave to rescue Alpaca. At the moment, the poor guy is being harassed by his chat to get out and bring Seojin out instead. If the chat could slap him out of his chair, they would. Thankfully, Jin Seojin is finally ready to show the world how he looks in real life. Like the great hype man that he is, Alpaca directed everyone's attention to the door behind him. The whole chat held their breaths, prepared to be amazed by the man favored by the gods. When Seojin entered, the room seemed to light up. The viewers weren't catfished. That man is actually handsome as hell. Face already complete, no filter required. Right after the Dawn of Assassins stream concluded, clips of Lord Nameless spread across the forums. For the IRL stream, Alpaca regaled his audience with the pretty boy. The reactions ranged from jealous incels to chatters being thirsty. Of course, the chat quickly devolved to comparing how ugly Alpaca was sitting next to a peerless beauty. He tried to clap back, swearing that he looked pretty decent back when he was in his 20s too. He just gained a little weight is all. Mentioning his weight was a mistake. The chatters knew what would make him feel even more conscious of his appearance, and they repeatedly poked fun at it. His only saving grace was the chatters who didn't watch him for his looks in the first place. Feeling depressed and deflated, Alpaca left the room to get things ready for the next part of the stream. Seojin was left to entertain tens of thousands of viewers by himself, while Alpaca prepares dinner for their collab after party. Left alone in the streaming room, the donations rolled in. People were throwing money at him just to be noticed. There were a lot of flirty messages in the chat, but he could tell that all these chatters were dudes. From that point on, Seojin grew suspicious of every donation hitting the stream. Some of the hardcore gamers in the chat wanted to ask him more about weakness detection and the fight from earlier. The skill itself was very straightforward. Weakness detection allows the user to more easily destroy equipment by striking along the marked lines. If the chatters want to see more of his gameplay, they'd better tune in to his stream tomorrow. It was a shameless self-promo, but the hustle was respectable. Seojin was having fun interacting with the chat, so he opened an Ask Me Anything Q&A. He was asked about what a fragment of order was, but he wasn't entirely sure what they are or what they do. They asked about his workout routine, and he truthfully answered that he mostly just runs. As for why he chose Dawn of the Assassins as his first stream game, a friend recommended the game to him. After the Q&A, the celebratory dinner was served. Kim Tae-woo also introduced himself to the chat as the friend who recommended Seojin to play Dawn of the Assassins. Some of the chatters recognized Tae-woo, flaming him for not streaming and bringing out his GigaChad friends sooner. Some were curious how they became friends, so Tae-woo proudly answered that they've been buddies since high school. They even live together now. That was a mistake. Some chatter brought up the fact that Tae-woo often talked about his roommate in his streams. Unbeknownst to Seojin, Tae-woo's viewers already know him as the legendary roommate. Tae-woo tried to hide the messages in chat, but that only made everyone in the room curious. Suddenly, someone donated 1,000 won with a travel clip attached. Seojin pushed his dumbass roommate out of the way of the phone and opened the clip. It was a clip straight out of Kim Tae-woo's stream, yapping about some funny story. According to Tae-woo, his roommate is a pretty decent guy, but sometimes he does the weirdest things. One day, Seojin got dirt on his phone, and he started scrubbing it with soap. When asked why he was doing all that, Seojin argued that his phone was waterproof, so it's okay. The day before that, Tae-woo asked his buddy to cool the capsule down with a cooler, and that weirdo crouched by the capsule to use a small handheld fan on it. Seojin was wholly unaware that this so-called friend of his had painted him as some kind of freak who knew nothing about common sense. As punishment, Seojin turned his cheek into a piece of meat for tonight's final course. The chat loved the dinner shenanigans a lot. After a great meal, Alpaca formally thanked Seojin for such a great collab. He humbly returned the thanks, given how much he learned collaborating with a far more experienced streamer. Eventually, they broached the topic of Seojin starting an iTube channel. Although he would like to get his videos out to the world, he's still pretty inexperienced on that front. If he's serious about breaking into the industry, Alpaca suggested that he should find an editor first. If Seojin would like, Alpaca would be happy to introduce him to an editor he knows. After a great meal, Jin Seojin cracked open a cold can of beer to unwind. The first sip of alcohol paired with the view from the balcony was refreshing. Alone with his thoughts, he seriously considered starting an iTube channel. According to Alpaca, iTube can only help his stream grow so much bigger. It's a surefire way to blow up, not to mention the sweet revenue that comes from the views. The only bottleneck in how much a channel thrives depends heavily on the editor's skills. Since capsule games are fundamentally different from other titles, it is rare to find an editor who can make them pop. All the editor talk got Seojin curious about how Suhan ended up becoming Alpaca's editor. According to Little Bro, he was just a regular office worker before he partnered with Alpaca. He just stumbled across his stream one day. From the jump, Alpaca had a good sense for streaming and entertaining an audience. He was severely limiting his growth by not uploading videos, and his channel was just gathering dust. Lee Suhan took it upon himself to revive that man's career, so he reached out to Alpaca himself. That was back when Alpaca was just a total nobody, just a goofy guy with a camera. Suhan saw the potential and quit his job to edit his videos full-time. He had a feeling that Alpaca would make it big, so Suhan fully committed to making his friend a star. Their story is proof that a good editor makes all the difference if you want to succeed as a streamer on iTube. Seojin wondered if adding iTube to his work stack would hinder his ultimate goal of winning the League of Streamers Championship. Originally, he only intended to win a top-of-the-line capsule and quit streaming altogether. But the whole process of gaming with an audience turned out to be much more fun than he expected. In the short time that he had been streaming, he grew to love the time spent laughing and hanging out with people in a virtual world. Perhaps he enjoyed the company of strangers because he was lonely. Admittedly, that might be the case. He is burdened by the memories of his past life. It was akin to having a hometown he can never return to, no matter how much he longs for it. Stopping himself from getting too sappy and emotional, Seojin decided to hit the gym to clear his head. At the boxing gym he frequented, Jin Seojin geared up for a sparring match. In here, he doesn't have to think about anything aside from beating the opponent in front of him. His jabs were deadly. Getting hit by one could easily knock out even experienced boxers. The resident boxing coach noted that Seojun only comes to his gym to relieve stress by fighting unsuspecting boxers. Still, it is strange how everyone who gets absolutely pummeled by him somehow gets a lot better. Professional boxers would hail him as their master after a brutal beating. While the coach was watching the spar, the client he was supposed to train was moaning and complaining about the endless treadmill run. Lee Dong-soo, an 18-year-old phenom and a player for freefall, was itching to get in the ring. Coach drilled into the kid's head that all the basics and stamina training he's done for the past 2 weeks will help him in the long run. Dong-soo tried to argue that he's a pro, so he should get some minutes in the ring. He might be a pro, but that's only in the virtual world. Reality is much different than playing inside a capsule all day. Dong-soo's freefall coach instructed him to gain some experience with his physical body. That's the only reason he's been coming to the gym. But at this rate, he might be stuck on treadmill duty until next year's tournament. He feels like a hamster endlessly running in a hamster wheel. Dong-soo threw a childish tantrum, demanding to learn some real-life combat techniques. The other gym-goers barely reacted to his shenanigans. They've grown used to his tantrums. Annoyed and pushed to the limit of his patience, Coach finally allowed Dong-soo to have a quick spar. The kid's eyes twinkled as he asked if he could pick his opponent. Coach allowed him to go wild, thinking there was no one in the gym he could beat anyway. While he was celebrating his escape from the endless torment of the treadmill, Dong-soo heard a body make a dull thud upon falling on the ring's canvas. He looked over and recognized the man in the blue corner as the guy from that viral travel clip the day before. One of his freefall teammates, Min Hyun, wouldn't stop gushing about how good the player named Nameless was, so Dong-soo checked it out. Even Shin Haeyeon was impressed while watching the videos. Dong-soo refused to acknowledge that the player in the clip was particularly outstanding. Knowing how exclusive this gym was, the young man wondered how a nobody got in. Perhaps the guy was friends with the manager or something. Seojin noticed the red-haired runt looking at him and stared back. Dong-soo was intimidated by the stare down, so he turned around and avoided Seojin's gaze. When Coach asked if he had decided on an opponent yet, he panicked. Coach put his hands on the runt's shoulders and tried to convey that sparring is not about knocking an opponent down. He lectured that sparring ultimately tests a fighter's techniques and shows where they can improve. Muting out the long-winded lecture from Unk, Dong-soo's eyes wandered back into the ring. By his estimate, the man in the ring should be about the same size as him. It doesn't look like he has eye-popping muscles either. If he picks that guy as his opponent, it should be a manageable fight, right? Coach was trying to instill proper fighting etiquette and manners, but Dong-soo didn't listen. He finally made up his mind and asked if he could spar with the guy who just knocked out his last opponent. The coach wanted to discourage the kid from jumping into the ring with the final boss. He tried to tell Dong-soo that there are plenty of other fighters in the gym who would love to spar with a professional gamer. Coach added that it is rude and thoughtless to ask for a spar with someone he just met, but Seojin heard their conversation and butted in. He heard the red-haired runt wanted to spar with him, and he would gladly gear up for another round. Dongsu tactlessly hopped into the ring and addressed Seojin by name. He confessed to watching yesterday's stream and insisted on calling Seojin Big Bro. After putting on gloves and headgear, both fighters stood in the ring while everyone watched. In a patronizing tone, the kid praised Seojin for being good at the game he was playing on stream. Still, the brat believes that Seojin wasn't as good as him. Not one to back down from a challenge, Jin Seojin looked the kid in the eyes and cluelessly asked who he was. Dongsu thought anyone in the gym would know who he was, but he was deeply mistaken. Like the immature child that he is, Dongsu claimed to be the one and only gaming god. Seojin scratched his head. The name didn't really ring a bell. Dongsu protected his ego by keeping in mind that Seojin had only started gaming recently. That's even more reason why Shin Haeon shouldn't make such a big deal out of a nobody. The kid promised to tell Seojin who he is after he wins. In the meantime, he urged Seojin to take this spar as a huge honor to be a part of. Dongsu arrogantly relaxed his body, believing that there was no need to get serious with someone who had just started gaming. While he was trying to keep the fight polite and easy, Jin Seojin charged at him with murderous intent packed in a glove. One punch was all it took to shut the gaming prodigy's mouth. Our boy is hanging out with his cool PC gamer Pops Jin Ha-jun, and let me tell you, Pops is not impressed with what he's seeing right now in the boxing match. He asks his son if his stream is doing fine, and expresses his own troubles, concerned that his son may be having a dreadful run in his streaming journey. Apparently Taewoo used to tell them how hard it was to gain even a single viewer. This is funny because it paints the picture that this idiot has been feeding his parents some weird stuff. Anyway, Hajin wants to help out his son and recommends playing Planetcraft as one of the suggestions. Of course, the main concern for our boy is whether the game's actually doing numbers. His pops believes that playing unique games gets you the viewer base to begin with. But when he asks his son about his viewer count, Seojin straight up says that he's got 440 people usually watching with 3,000 followers. The revelation makes this man spit his damn drink out. Bro is literally having a heart attack over the fact his son's got so many followers. Right after the collab broadcast, the community was seething with chaos. Each post surpassed a minimum of 30 upvotes, and there weren't any posts left to slander our boy's reputation anymore. In simple terms, people finally knew what he was all about, and that he was no pushover or a scammer. Taewoo, out of the blue, sends our boy a message, urging him to take a look at another article, outlining how Seojin must be some kind of hacker. Great. Another scandalous article that Taewoo is laughing over. Now that things are going in irrational territories, Seojin has given up and simply reports the misinformed post. What bothers him is if he has to do a proper explanation stream just to clear up the rumors, even though his streaming journey is literally 3 days old. In the next scene, Bro's in the capsule, curious how many numbers he'll rack in this time. The numbers soar higher and higher, pulling the highest possible count he's ever gotten. President Paimo is shocked that the weakness detection ability has already been exploited, even though it needed a month to be deployed. His assistant confirms this, and goes on to remind his boss about the warning he gave last time, yet his arrogant boss didn't even listen. The assistant highlights that no one should be able to read into it so easily, though Paimo has no idea what he's talking about. So the guy flips the laptop screen over to him, showcasing a video of the man of the hour breaking a weak point. In the video, Seojun is basically styling on the mission. President Paimo doesn't know what to say, questioning how it's even possible for someone to get the skill before it's even scheduled. Apparently they checked, and there's no bug at all. Instead, this man who has already become a big fan of Seojin knows the explanation why. Bro literally starts typing an essay down of how Seojin is such a 5-head big brain Ayano Koji type of person that he managed to understand the patterns and read it instantly before shattering it. In other words, the dude isn't a hacker either, further making him seem like some kind of prodigy or a god. President Paimo understands the Glaze Festival going on, but doesn't get what their next move is supposed to be. Homeboy asks what they should do in the first place. President Paimo roars at him that he's asking about the state of the fragments and what they should do until then. The fragment of order is not a joke. It's one of the hidden Easter eggs that hinted at the incoming product of the company, because once all 4 of them were gathered, a chain quest would open up for the person challenging it. There's actually a teaser video also prepared for that moment to come. Everything was naturally and properly calculated, a proper method that Paimo himself perfected. One small issue, thanks to the involvement of our boy, the same perfect calculation went off the rails because of one stupid player. Paimon sulks in defeat, questioning how long it will take for them to make another teaser video, which he learns is about 1 month. And if they're really pushing it with the extra hours, it's even possible to get it done within a week. But the big question is, what happens if the streamer ends up collecting all the fragments within the time period? His assistant is happy to answer that one with radiating confidence, because you see, he's fully certain that Seojin will end up gathering all the crystals even before the week ends. Yup, not the answer that his boss wanted to hear. Paimon orders his bitches to get the hell out. Talk about being the most useful and the shittiest employee at the same time. Paimon's done with life. When suddenly he comes across a video of Seojin making waves again, it's so hard to believe that this random newbie is capable of pulling miraculous feats. Even someone in his position is starting to doubt what the hell is going on. Currently, our boy's view count is at a massive 120,000. His techniques are all put up for display, how he slaughtered each and every single one of his opponents with finesse. Each fight is so epic that Paimon has turned into a fangirl himself, who is really happy that someone is smart enough to use one of the original strategies that he devised to take down Drake. It's 3 a.m. and he suddenly realizes that Paimon is feeling a strange kind of fulfillment lately. The game he poured his soul into is being enjoyed by all players in the world, making him really happy. This is the purpose of the game he set out to create, the dawn of the assassination squad. Bro's days are turning into a satisfying twist with the existence of Jin Seojin's existence, who is now hailing himself as a veteran newbie with 1,700 followers. The next time our boy comes up to stream, all his viewers are confused by his sudden change in title. Now that the viewership is doing numbers, the chat is moving fast too. That's why this dude prepared something in advance, Joam being his main line of defense, and the other few chatters being his well-trusted assistants. These three are officially assigned the positions of moderators, the world's most serious job ever. The goal is simple: eliminate any trolls or rule breakers in chat. It's also deserving of these guys to become the mods since they were here for him since day one. Our boy actually personally reached out to them and ensured that they all agreed to the deal, except one of them, that being the public restroom guy who ghosted him. Anyway, Bro publishes the new rules for his chat too. There are only 3 basic ones to follow which summarize using one's own common sense. Still, the viewers are curious about the title of the stream, and since everyone has been curious how he managed to find the weak point, Seojin figured why not show it to them. Bro apologizes first, before revealing how he connected lines that were similar parts of the equipment for an easier cut. He then decided to report it himself, knowing that no one would believe him anyway. A pretty insane move on that end. That's why Bro's stream title is about accidentally using a hack, which makes the chatters lose it because they can see how this man is trying his best to maintain fairness. With enough explanations aside, it's time for the broadcast, and at great timing, a notification pops up. Our boy assumes it's for the mission, but nope. It's a message from the creator of the game who lends this dude 1,000,000 won if he can use weakness detection against the Aetherius Spire. The chatters don't get the purpose of it, confused if the goal here is to use magic or if magic can even be cut in the first place. To arrange things in his head, Seojin plays out the scenario, wondering if it's the real creator who's advising him this. The fact that's been giving 1,000,000 won just for this mission alone is massive, which actually makes him believe that this might be the creator himself. The chatters insult him for being so naive that he has to ask that after so long when the answer is obvious. Let's come over to the city ruled by mages, the Aetherius Spire. The ruler here is Duke, the central figure of this mission, who does not hesitate to conduct human experiments in the name of research and advancement. Leaping up and around the district, we have Pipe Murderer 9000, who nearly makes a poor girl faint for being as swift as an assassin. Technically she's right because Bro is indeed out here to assassinate his target, though the chatters ask to see if he even knows what the boss is. As always, Bro declines, appearing dense once more in front of his viewers and earning their insults for just going head straight. Refusing to make it more complicated than it seems to be, our boy navigates the setting, his best lead becoming the NPC mages, who he notes are pretty few in this region. The thing is, mages in general are pretty rare. The first few floors are trash, and the 4th is where the real fight begins. With the chat gone quiet, our boy's senses are telling him that something is about to happen here. One man asks the intruder not to enter inside restricted grounds, but Seojin, being Seojin, takes out his weapon in an effort to scare the guy, and then goes on to deliver a pretty nasty hit to this guy's body, knocking the wind out of him as he hits the ground. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not calling that a light hit. Suddenly, Bro's body begins to experience several changes, as if it's forcibly paralyzed out of nowhere. Back there, a mage spills doom for the intruder who can't do anything from his position. Next, the same mage fires a heated blast, one that the sword god cannot even avoid from while he's immobilized in one spot.